Chronological thinking can be a tricky area to teach, with pupils often finding time concepts difficult to grasp. The out-of-sequence primary curriculum doesn't help, and the QCA has cited chronology as being an area of concern. In the Key Stage 2 History programme, Chronology Workshop, Heather Cox and Helen Schmitz from Cromer Road Primary School in North London were amongst a group of teachers who road tested a new range of chronology activities developed by Alan Hodkinson. Today, they are putting what they learnt into practice in class. They will team teach a Year 4 lesson, including a time machine game, a revamped version of the timeline activity, and a maths quiz. Observed by Alan, Heather and Helen find out how useful the activities are and discuss ways they may be useful in a range of lessons.
What we're going to do this morning is we're just going to start off by thinking about the things that we were talking about in our last lesson. And we were talking about a word called
chronology.
Chronology, fantastic. And who can remember, what does the word chronology mean? Yeah.
Past and present.
One thing it means is past and present, fantastic. It means even more than past and present.
Is it how people and things change?
How people and things change, good one, you're absolutely right. It's the order of events and people living in time.
One of the things that sort of comes out of research, but also what Ofsted find when they go into schools, is the notion that chronology isn't done very well and maybe children don't understand it so well.
I think it's true to say that we as teachers don't often put as much emphasis on chronology as on the content of the history topic that we're teaching. I think in schools we usually think about chronology along with the content of a history lesson. So it was quite good to actually think about how you could have a chronology type lesson where you were just concentrating on time and events.
Can you tell me what chronology is?
It's a bit about like past and present, like when stuff was just done and how it was made.
Interesting. And what is the past, Tim?
Past stuff that's already happened, like what I'm saying is the past.
Okay, and how long ago does the past go back?
Like ever.
How long is ever?
I don't know.
OK, we're going to go back in time. Putting on our hats makes us time machines, OK? We're now going to be a time machine. Oh, how am I going to be a time machine? Think of a machine at home. Jack?
Fridge.
Fridge?
TV.
TV. What noises do they make? OK, just think about a noise you're going to make for your machine. OK, ready? Go. Make your noise machine. OK, now we're going to go back in time. Where are we going to go back to? December the 25th last year. Ready? And off you go. You're going to go back. Ready? Off you go. Freeze. What can you see, Daniel?
Presents.
Presents. What can you see?
My brother's woke me up and I'm going downstairs to open the presents in my stocking. I can see me waking up really early. I can see my sister snoring when I'm trying to wake her up.
Every single child was involved in that activity. Every single child knew where they were going in their own mind and knew what they were seeing when they got out of that spaceship. That was really interesting.
When we were doing with you, we drew that on a piece of paper. We had talked about possibly getting them to draw on whiteboards because we had put that in the planning, but somehow it didn't seem to work. It didn't seem appropriate today. So in a sense, I suddenly realised, oh well, no, I prefer the whole visualisation bit, and it didn't matter that you didn't draw it in the end.
Where else could we go?
Henry VIII.
OK, right, we're going to go back to Henry VIII. Switch on, ready, go. Freeze. We're back in the time of Henry VIII. What can you see?
People jousting.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
I can see him chopping someone's head off.
Ooh!
I can hear tomatoes getting thrown at someone's face.
The amount of assessment information that was flooding out of the children, the sort of content knowledge, the stuff that was coming out about Henry VIII was really interesting.
And Jack said jousting, didn't he? Because I
Absolutely.
thought that was brilliant. And he said, what can you see jousting?
And it's interesting they picked, as usual, Henry VIII, because they haven't covered that period of history yet in Year 4.
I think very often in history we overlook assessment. There's so much more that we actually can do, and you really brought that out to the children today. Is there anything that you would do differently with it if you had your timer again to maybe enhance its effectiveness?
Just revisit that in the plenary, couldn't you? If you'd done a lesson where you'd started with your time machine, you'd then had a content, and then you'd got back in your time machine at the end, and you'd actually gone back to that time, that would be a really interesting assessment. What do you now see? I'm going to hand you an envelope, and I want you to discuss what you found out about the things that are inside your envelope. Off you go. When would your timeline begin, and which date would it end? So this is great-grandma Anne, and she was born in
1890
and she died in
1952. Had 2 sons and 3 daughters.
Fantastic. So if you want to jot some other information down.
What were you looking for the children to do in that development activity?
We didn't want to make the activity very closed, so we didn't just give them some questions. We allowed them to generate their own questions, which meant they had to really look at the information and find out as much as they could for themselves.
Yeah, it was there. Hold on, she had a daughter, which was her. Okay.
At the moment they're looking at my family cards, so they're ordering my family, my mother, my grandmother and my great-grandmother. I'm looking for this notion about how they order time, how they sequence the events in time, and it's going to be interesting to see whether they can actually order these time for who was born longest ago in the past and who was closest to the present. So I'm really watching out for that.
This one was born in 1996 alone, so that goes here. Yes.
They've really enjoyed working with chronology. They're really interested in this family. Interestingly enough, straight away ordered the cards into the timeline. That was what they were thinking of. And now they're trying to work out how old the people are.
What's my grandmother's name?
Your grandmother's name is Edith.
Edith. So when was she born?
1920.
You'd have been alive then, wouldn't you? In 1920. Why not?
I was born in 1996.
I'm really impressed with the standard of work that I've seen this morning. How much work have you done on chronology so far?
This is the first time we've done this, the first time we've looked at the cards, the first time we've introduced it. I just think it's phenomenal the way they've taken it on board. No, this has hit all the range of abilities as well. No, we've been able to challenge the children that have really got thoughts and really want to move forward, and also children who have real learning needs have been very engaged and have been able to actually do things at their level as well.
It's nice to see the way they're sort of getting the linear scale in. They've run out a bit of a room there, but it's interesting that they're already ordering them. There's a few mistakes in the middle, but I'm sure they'll be working on those in a moment. Probably a bit of calculator skills there. But...
Trying to work out how long this lady lived for.
So how long her life was? Okay, and how are you doing that?
Well, we're trying to add the born and when she died.
Do you want to add them?
Or should we take them away?
What do you think?
I think we should take them away.
What other subjects do you think you were covering in that lesson?
I think there was some maths.
Was it an enjoyable way of doing some maths?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it was like history as well, and history like quite fun.
Okay. Nicola, do you think you were covering any other areas?
We could have been doing a bit of literacy because we was actually doing some on the whiteboards. We was writing down what their names was and we was finding out more about them.
Anybody want to say anything then? Yeah.
They're his family and he's 38.
They're his family, and he is who?
38.
Mr.
What is it?
Hodkinson. Mr. Hodkinson. And you've worked out that's him. What is the difference in age between Mr. Hodkinson's mum and Mr. Hodkinson?
We did 62 take away 38.
Can you explain to me why you did 62?
Because the mum is 62 and Mr. Hodkinson is 38.
So the difference is 24 years. Well done.
The questions that they developed were high-order questions, and I think that the range of work that could have led on to in terms of research work, I think would have been very profitable to follow that up.
It was really nice that they could see that they, were meaningful, not just pictures that have been posted in it was real information.
So that the meaningful bits were important, and then to take again, remove it a step further to actually take it into sort of the history and chronology, and actually see famous people, and that was also very useful with the larger cards.
Within your group, I'm going to give you 3 cards that are the same. They're going to have a famous person on them. Whose famous person in their hand is somebody who died in 1933?
We've got Anne Besant.
I want you to put Anne Besant on the timeline.
Her death or her birth?
You could do either, actually. Fantastic. Which year was Henry VIII born?
1491.
And I figured out something. He died on the 28th and he was born on the 28th.
How interesting. Do you want to come and show me where he would be on the timeline?
One of the children, he went all the way along the timeline, then he went back again, and he then slowly worked his way back, and he got it absolutely perfectly. It's about seeing how children are understanding the issue of sort of timelines.
That was really important when I saw that, because it quite clearly showed that that child was being given a physical representation of time that they could work with.
Could Winston Churchill have been alive at the same time as Queen Victoria? So could they have been alive at the same time?
Yeah.
Yes.
We've seen how valuable timelines can be in relation to the class. How else could they be used?
I'm sure you could do it in assemblies in the hall and things like that, without a doubt.
That enables the younger children to see what's coming next in relation to their history work throughout the schools. Because very often we teach the study units in isolation, and children lack that understanding about how they can link together.
Yeah.
When was Queen Victoria born?
1819.
Could Henry VIII, who was born here in 1491, could he have known Queen Victoria? No. Why not?
Because there's 3 centuries before she was born.
Well done.
If you had any advice, what would it be about how you can make chronology teaching effective?
Just not to be frightened, to just try things out.
Yes.
And particularly anything that you can do where the children are using their whole body, they do remember things better and they have more fun. So try things out. We're just going to remind ourselves of the words that we've used for different periods of time. What word would you use for a period of 10 years? Decade. 100 years? Century. 1,000 years?
I think that we spend a lot of time with the content because we feel safe, but I think it's important that we shouldn't be afraid of a skill like chronology, that children do understand it. I think that the more that time we can give to it, then actually the more they will understand.
At the beginning, when they say chronology, past and present, like it sounded really hard. I thought that it was going to be like, it would have loads of meanings and it would be really hard to get to understand it, but actually it's not, because it's just about the past and the present.
I thought, oh dear, it's going to be a really hard lesson, it's going to be about loads of different things, but then when I found out that it was just about timelines and the past and the present, I was a bit more relaxed about it, and I found the timeline a bit harder than I thought it would be, but I still liked it and it was quite fun.